My name is Drew Collins. Most people on campus know me as a lacrosse player, or a singer in the Crosstones, or a guitar player in several bands on campus, or just a super large human that is hard to miss. I've made incredible friends and memories in my 4 years at Bates, and I would not trade them for anything. There are so many aspects of my time at Bates worth writing a vignette on. The undefeated Bates lacrosse team that I walked onto that ended up being the #1 team in the country. The egregious injuries I underwent that ended up defining my time as a collegiate athlete. The incredible music that I made with a cappella that brought people together in a way that no other musical form does. The unparalleled energy brought about by my bands that injected energy into the Bates community and brought so many people together. But none of these moments are what I've chosen to speak about today. Despite all of them playing significant roles in my development as a person, I wanted to talk about something that not so many people know about me. This is probably the most unique experience I had at Bates and shifted my perspective more than anything else. I came into my first year at Bates with a lot of personal issues that were severely impacting my mental health. I was struggling with the transitional period and many other things that made me rethink entirely who I was and what I was doing with my time. Naturally, with my negative attitude at the time, I decided to enroll in a class called The End of the World for my first year seminar. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. The first activity we did as a class involved putting blindfolds on and interacting with a tree, feeling it, touching it, tasting it, basically using all of our senses to experience it but sight. Now at first I struggled to see where this was going. However, with such a tumultuous headspace, I was desperate for any connection with anything. I'd really lost myself and needed direction. Our class was instructed to spend 30 minutes a week at our tree for the rest of the fall semester, and each week we would perform different activities with the tree. I meditated by the tree, I wrote a tree journal, I told the tree my life story, I even named the tree Philip. Though I was instructed to do all this, it quickly became clear that the experience was more than just an assignment. It was therapeutic. I could get away from everything simply by sitting next to my tree and giving my full attention to something so different from anything I'd ever experienced. It was next to this tree that my perspective began to shift. I started to think about just how long the tree had been there. I started to think about what every person around campus was doing while I was just sitting next to the tree. Time would slow down and it became something I wanted to do, not just something I was instructed to do. Our professor, Dennis Sweet, also known as Yoda, took notice of my tree journal and the things I was writing. Since I'd been going through such a transformative period, I was writing rather bleak realizations about where our world was going. Remember, the class was called The End of the World. He invited me on a vision quest, which originated in Native American culture. It is a journey that is supposed to signify a transitional period from adolescence to adulthood. While the traditional vision quest was meant to last 4 days and 3 nights, Yoda suggested a 2-day and 2-night period of fasting and complete isolation in the wilderness. I was immediately intrigued and agreed to do it. I'm the type of person to throw myself into the unknown and come out with knowledge that way. Sometimes it works, oftentimes it doesn't. Fast forward to the end of the school year, and there I was, starting my time in isolation 3 hours north of Bates. Every day moved incredibly slow, and waves of hunger constantly took me over. You never realize just how long a day on Earth is until you intentionally do nothing for the entirety of it. I found myself watching the tides change, skipping rocks, meditating, trying to guess what time it was, just about anything I could do to pass the time. My mind stayed active, but with nothing to do, it was hard to find ways to not drive myself insane. It was incredibly mentally strenuous in a way that is very hard to describe. Words cannot really do it justice. I was living in a way that humans used to live. The only goal was to survive and exist, and there were no constructs that drove my mind a certain direction. It is something that most people today will never experience. We are constantly living with expectations, things we need to do, places we need to be, commitments we need to make. There's so much built up around every person. When I removed myself from it all, I felt free. There was no pressure to do anything, to be in constant worry. Everything that mattered was what I was thinking in that very moment. I made it out of the vision quest with a different understanding of what it meant to be present. I tried to find a connection with anyone or anything because I was so lost. Instead, I ended up connecting with myself. The tree that I basically befriended was just a way of coming to understand myself. I found my happiness through connecting with myself. Perspective became everything to me, and I realized just how much is happening on this earth every day at every moment. A lot of what I was able to accomplish in my time at Bates came from this deeper understanding of myself. Yoda gave me a means of looking at myself in complete separation from my constructed reality. I needed connection, but it wasn't with others. It was simply with myself.